Hi there. Welcome to Pallet University and the next episode in our Real Biologist Reacts series to the art of Joshua Dunlop, where he draws Pokemon as if they were sort of real living animals or other such creatures living in our world. So basically all I do is react from a real biologist perspective to some of the biological choices that he made while drawing these pieces of art. So as always, make sure to check out all of Joshua's socials. They will be down in the description below, as well as we will be ending off the episode on his ArtStation page. So make sure to hang out until the end of the video for that. We do also have a Patreon, the link to which you can find down below. Basically on that, we have an exclusive Discord server, an exclusive Patreon exclusive videos of me doing non-Pokemon things. We've had videos of me playing Fall Guys for a little bit. There's going to be videos this week of me playing the new Super Mario 3D collection that just came out for the Switch. So if you like that kind of content and want to see me doing some non-Pokemon things, make sure to check those out by supporting on Patreon. And before we get started with this video, we actually have a message from a sponsor. Hey you! Yeah, you there. Does your beard suck? Is your beard a dandruff disaster? Then try Below the Nose Beard Oil. With our custom formulated beard oils, we can take your beard from that frizzy mess you see in the mirror every morning into something both you and your partner will greatly appreciate. The more we sell, the more different varieties and scents of oil we can stock. So check out the Etsy link down in the description. Okay, so it's not as much a sponsor as it is another thing that I do to try to make money. But I like the wording a lot better. Anyway, let's get into the actual content of the video. So, when I saw this piece of art for Diglett, I knew that I had to react. And the one for Dugtrio is even worse. Worse as in, excellent. Excellent worse. They look extraordinary, obviously, but look how disapproving this face is. This Diglett face is very much looking at whatever it is that you're doing and is kindly but firmly disapproving. And it only gets more disapproving once we get to Dugtrio because there are 3 of them. I'm getting very much what are they called from the Star Wars Episode 8, Porgs, I think. I'll put whatever they are on screen. That is very much the vibe I'm getting from these. Anyway, I really enjoy, so Diglett is classified as the mole Pokemon. That is definitely not where Joshua's getting the inspiration for this from. Moles have extremely reduced eyes because, think about it, they spend their entire life basically underground. And things that live in really dark environments, such as underground or deep in caves where they never get sunlight, often have very reduced, or sometimes they just get rid of their eyes altogether. So that's obviously not the route that Joshua's going, because these eyes are very big and very judgmental. And so it's very clear, and it's kind of tough to see. Some of the ways he draws the art, so the reflections in the eyes, makes it really hard to tell the kind of pupil that it has, although based on sort of this curve right here, I'm inclined to say that Diglett has circular pupils, which if you missed the last video where we talked about Clefairy, Clefable, Jigglypuff, and Wigglytuff, make sure to check that out in the corner. But basically, vertical pupils versus circular pupils has nothing to do with anything other than when the animal is awake. So if they're vertical pupils, that typically means that the animal's either crepuscular, which means they're awake at dawn and dusk, or they're nocturnal, which obviously means they're awake at night. So, or just live in a really dark place. So because Diglett's eyes or pupils are circular, that implies to me that it spends most of its time actually above ground. That's what that implies to me. We know that's probably not true, just based on everything we know about Diglett and Dugtrio. But there you have it. I really enjoy how he just made the nose almost like a dog nose. So obviously Diglett's nose is very like ovate. I think is the technical word for that. Basically, it's like basically just like a big oval, um, on its face with no nares. So which is the technical term for like nostrils. Um, I also really enjoy the whiskers because that is probably how Diglett would feel its way around underground. Obviously, we don't know what Diglett's body is like underground. We really just don't know. Other than the fact that it is canon, if you consider the Mystery Dungeon games canon, it is canon that Diglett does have feet. That is canon in Mystery Dungeon DX and obviously the original Red Rescue Team and Blue Rescue Team. Diglett mentions having feet. I don't remember all of the dialogue because there is a Diglett character in the second like set of Mystery Dungeon games, Explorers of Time, Darkness, and Sky, and I don't remember if that Diglett or its father, Dugtrio, mentioned having feet. I don't remember. But anyway, it is out there in the Pokemon world that Diglett does have feet. We have no idea what they look like, but it's got them. Regardless, these whiskers are probably how Diglett would sort of feel its way around in its tunnels underground. Because obviously it's going to be super dark and its eyes are just not equipped because they're circular. They're just not as good at seeing in low light conditions. At least, it not as good as it would be if it had like, vertical pupils. Although that looks terrifying right there. That looks genuinely really scary. But it really does look like a dog nose in the sense that it's like a different color than the fur, which isn't always the case in dogs, but is sometimes. As well as it's furless. Dogs don't have any fur on their right on the end of their nose, and neither do like cats, but a lot of rodents and things sometimes do. But moles actually are not rodents. They're actually classified as insectivores. That's like their class that they're in. But yeah, I'm really curious because I think I don't believe moles have fur on their nose, but I don't know that for sure. Anywho, I don't know, just some of like the like little cracks and the fact that it looks a little wet looks very dog-like to me. Once again, just like the frowny face looks very judgmental. But I really do enjoy the fact that it gives Diglett fur, and then even has like lots of dirt in the fur, which makes sense. Diglett, I don't believe Diglett and Dugtrio are like mentioned of having fur, although it would make sense if they're supposedly based off of moles. But I like obviously if you're living underground, you don't want long hair because that'll just get in your way. So really short, pretty dense fur would make sense for something that lives underground. Moving on to your very disapproving uncle. Especially this one. Dugtrio. So, really not much else to say, except the nose looks even more dog-like in these. This one looks exactly the same as Ditto, which I mean makes sense because Dugtrio looks exactly the same as Ditto. Did I say Ditto? Diglett. Dugtrio looks very much the same as Diglett, except there's 3 of them and 2 of them are taller. There's really not much else to say. I really like the little bit of hair that he adds here with the chin, though. So actually, Diglett. So Diglett's. Well, I guess Diglett had that too. But like, these really just look like they're just evaluating everything that you're doing wrong in your life, and they're just very disappointed with you. There's really not much else biologically to talk about with Diglett and Dugtrio. Because you can only see from like here up. And you can't even see that much with that because it's like teeth tell you a lot about especially mammals, but animals in general. But you can't ever see any of Diglett or Dugtrio's teeth. Here you get a much better look at a circular pupil. Yeah, you can definitely tell that these are circular pupils. Which again implies that Diglett and Dugtrio spend most of their time with their head above ground anyway. Interesting. Anyway, moving on to the much more interesting of the two like families that we're doing today, Rhyhorn and Rhydon. So let's move on to Rhyhorn. Rhyhorn looks incredible. So I really enjoy. So I'm going to say I do like Rhydon better, but we'll talk about Rhydon when we get there. Because Rhyhorn looks like it is actually covered in rock, which, I mean, makes sense. Unlike Onyx, I don't think it's canon for Rhyhorn to actually be made out of rock. I think that its skin is very thick, like a rhino, So I don't think it's actually canon that Rhyhorn is like made of rock. I am going to look that up though. So apparently its Pokedex entry from Diamond and Pearl says that it's clad in a thick hide. So I do not believe that it's canon for its skin to literally be made out of rock, but that's the route that Joshua decided to take here. Clearly, and that's it's covered in like moss, which I think is really cool because Rhyhorn, it's not a particularly fast Pokemon. So it would potentially make sense for some like lichen and moss to grow on it. What I think is actually really cool is the background, because what's really fun, and we're actually doing really well time wise in this episode. I don't like for these episodes to last super long, but what's really fun about the group that rhinos are in, which is called Parisodactyls. So it's basically things with hooves, or basically like running four-legged animals. Mostly things with hooves, but obviously things like rhinos don't have hooves. So Parisodactyls are the ones that have an odd number of weight-bearing toes. So, for example, horses only have 1, rhinos have 3, and tapirs also have 3. So there were lots of other different members of this group that aren't around anymore. Those are the ones we have today. But what's funny is that like they're well known from like different areas of the world today. Like, rhinos obviously I think only live in Africa. I believe there's some species that live in like the Middle East, like the Sumatran rhino. Sumatra's not on Africa, so yeah, there's some that live in the Middle East. I think there's an Indian rhino as well. Anyway, they're not known from North America. Horses were not known in North America until like Europeans brought them over. So horses are mostly native to Europe and Asia, and then obviously things like zebras are native to Africa. And then tapirs are only native to like Central and South America. And then I think there's a species that lives in Malaysia, I want to say, somewhere in like the Indo-Pacific region. Anyway, so all three like groups of Parisodactyls are not known for living in North America today. However, all three of them did most of their evolution in North America and then went extinct and left and went somewhere else. So what this looks like to me is actually like a plane. This looks much more North American than it does like African inspired, which I think is really cool. For example, like for my research, I deal with one species of rhino from here, native to South Dakota, back about 12 or so million years ago, called Teleoceras, which is like a rhino that basically behaves like a hippo. It's got very short legs and probably lived in like rivers, which I think is super cool. But anyway, me nerding out about paleontology aside, this looks much more North American inspired to me. Granted, I don't know all that much about like African landscapes, but that's what it looks like to me. So I think that's pretty cool. Back to Rhyhorn anyway. So it looks like you can definitely see like actual skin on it. So it really looks like it's wearing like armor, because on the inside of its like eye hole here, it looks like fleshy, not this hard armory stuff on the outside. And then in its mouth right here, this has a technical name. The like little flap of skin that some animals have, like on the inside of their mouth, that has a name, and I don't know what it is. Hopefully I'll remember to look it up and put it in somewhere over there or over that direction in post. Let's look underneath. No, I guess it does. It's pretty armored all over, I guess. Oh yeah, but what's very funny is that Rhyhorn has 2 toes, but rhinos are part of the group, like I said, that has an odd number of toes. So rhinos in general, modern rhinos anyway, have like 3 weight-bearing toes. So I just think that's kind of ironic. Biologically, though, what are some other things? So rhinos absolutely do not have teeth like this, at least not on the top. So rhinos do actually have some like tusk-like teeth. Their incisors on their lower jaw are pretty tusk-like, but definitely not any ones on the top like that. And definitely not that far back. That's about like where your molars should be. If they were gonna have like fang-like teeth like that, that's where like they'd have to be like your canine teeth, right? I would think, and those are much more anterior toward the front. So they would probably supposed to be like right here if they were to exist at all. I'm really curious about the opening for the hole here, because so ears are not typically made out of hard things because they reflect sound a lot better than they sort of direct it. And also, like I mentioned last episode, it's really hard for animals to just evolve a new thing from nothing. That doesn't happen almost ever. So it has to like modify something that's already there. So we didn't have a readily available bone on the side of our head to, make an external ear bone. I mean, we sort of do. It's like that hard, like, circular bump behind your ear. It's called an auditory bulla. That's where your ear bones are. Anywho, I'm really curious how acoustics would work. I feel like Rhyhorn's hearing would be really bad if its entire, like, ear canal was hard and rocky like this. I feel like its hearing would be terrible. Because everything would sound like, and also they open like up. So, human ears open to the side, which means, we can get a pretty good, position on where a sound's coming from, because it'll hit one eardrum slightly before the other. And your brain knows how to do the very fast math in order to figure out, okay, it hits, this ear like half a millisecond before this one. So it's from more this direction than it is this direction. So that's basically how your hearing works. But with rhinos, or with Rhyhorn here in general, because its ears are like hard and not movable like a lot of other mammals, and because it opens up, all sounds would sound to its brain like the sound is coming from above it. So, and granted, this is not a thing. Josh was just doing what the source material says. That's a critique of Rhyhorn, the Pokemon in general. Obviously, these look really good. And you can see one like playing with its calf in the background, which I think is that's very cute. Let's see. Is there anything else to really talk about here? I don't think so. Its legs look a little long. I don't think Rhyhorn actually has legs that you can see. I think you pretty much just see the body and then feet, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look at that, actually. Okay, so it does have some very short legs, but these, Joshua drew them very much elongated, much more like an actual rhino would be. So that makes a lot more sense than Rhyhorn having all these super short, stubby legs. But yeah, that's Rhyhorn. So let's move on to the one that I said I liked better, Rhydon. So Rhydon, weirdly, in some places looks a lot more like it's wearing armor, and then in some places a lot less. So for example, the like eye socket here looks very much like it's wearing like a helmet or a mask because of how sunken in the eyeball is. And then also right here, it literally looks like that's basically like a plate above its, hand/wrist. But then when you look at the texture of it, granted there's some, there's a lot more than I actually noticed the first time. A lot of lichen and like moss type growth on it. And it looks like this definitely looks a lot more like Africa, savanna inspired landscape. Some places do look much more like actual rhino flesh. Like right here specifically, rhino skin does look quite like it's cracked because it's super dry. That's rhino skin does have that appearance generally. Rhydon's ears make a lot more sense, although I don't see... Actually, wait, which one is supposed to be its ear? I had always assumed that it was this, but maybe it's this. So, interesting. So, I talked both last episode and the episode before about how Pokemon, especially the early designs, would give mammalian-like Pokemon, ears, such as Pikachu or Clefable, but not give the ears an opening, which would obviously make them very bad at being ears. But Joshua, for the most part, fixes that and makes them a lot more functional, like actual ears. But he must have chosen not to do that here, and I'm curious why. Because, like I said, I'd always assumed this was the ear, but it doesn't look like he gave it an opening unless it's behind, like, this thing, which it very well could be. I don't know. But it also could be this, I guess. But there's definitely no opening here. Once again, with the tooth in the wrong spot. But once again, that's source material. That's not anything to do with Joshua. I do like how he chose to have it eating grass, despite being very much like a Godzilla-like Pokemon. Pokemon is very fond of making Godzilla-like things. Obviously, like, the main one's Tyranitar, but, like, Pokemon like Rhydon and Aggron clearly have some kind of, like, kaiju-type inspiration. But rhinos, are obligate grazers. I think there were some older ones that used to be browsers. So grazers eat grass and things very low to the ground, whereas browsers tend to eat more leafy things. And I'm almost positive, definitely the African species of rhinos are obligate grazers, which means they eat purely grass, which I think is a really neat tidbit that he threw in here. The way he drew it also almost makes it look like it is what's called facultatively bipedal, which means that it is mainly bipedal, but can walk on all fours. So for a good example, think of like duck-billed dinosaurs or hadrosaurs. So when they're just hanging out, they walk on all fours, but when they need to run, they sort of just lift up their front limbs and then rely on their tail to counterbalance their front half, and then can just run on their back legs. That's sort of the way he drew it, because it's very much like hunched over like that. Whereas I think, as you can see below, Rhydon normally is standing very much upright. So I like the way he drew this, and I'm interested if he ever draws Rhyperior, because I think for the most part he's just been sticking to the Generation 1 Pokemon. And obviously now that there's, I don't even know what number, like Eternatus and, I guess Urshifu would be the latest Pokemon in the Pokedex at this point. I don't even know what number they are, but we're around 900, if not past 900. And Joshua's only got like 120 or so Pokemon done. I mean, obviously they take a hugely long time because they look beautiful. Hopefully he keeps doing this, for as long as Pokemon is a thing, hopefully. Let's see. What else can I talk about? I think its skin, even if it is wearing like a set of like armor, looks like it makes a lot more sense than Rhyhorn's. Just because it actually like articulates together, where it's like, this shoulder piece fits inside of this one, and then this like humerus one fits inside the shoulder one, and it just looks like it fits together a lot better than Rhyhorn's. Rhyhorn's just looks like it's just very craggy and looks like it would just rub against each other while it was moving, which, I mean, if it's like rocky armor, I guess it wouldn't hurt it, but that'd be annoying and probably pretty inefficient. Let's see, what else? I like the horn, in that he drew it sort of drill-like, and like you can definitely see, like the drill marks, but at the end, it's very like, beat up, which would make sense if it was actually using it. It wouldn't remain completely like perfect. Even like drill bits that are diamond tipped that we use in geology, get worn out a lot more quickly than you would think. Being that they have diamonds embedded in the metal, and it's very hardened metal to begin with, even they get worn out pretty quickly. So it's really cool that he added that. Just that bit of detail at the end is pretty beat up after being used, probably quite a bit. As always, we're ending off here on Joshua's ArtStation page, the link to which will be down below. Make sure to go check it out. He's putting up new stuff, basically from what I've seen, like once a week or so, which is really cool. I'm really enjoying some of the newer ones that he's been putting out, but make sure to go check them out for yourselves at that link down below or right here on the screen. Also, make sure to follow me on Twitter to keep up on all things Pokemon Science at Pallet_U. Make sure to check out our Patreon down in the description below as well. And as always, there's a time and place for everything.